Morning, guys. I hope you're all well and that you're enjoying this lovely weather. Today's lesson and this week's focus is going to be looking at the nature essay that I set you last week. Thank you to those of you who have submitted your plans and those of you who have submitted your rewrite for suspense. I'm going to get those marked hopefully today, and I'll send those back to you. So I thought I'd go through this essay kind of step by step, looking at how I would mark it, how I would plan it, and then I will upload the PowerPoint presentation so that you can use that to support your writing. So first of all, we've got the actual question here. So in the exam, you will be asked something thematic. So we've looked at suspense. Here we've got natural world. You could look at something like religious belief or death, or worries about death or welcoming of death. And you'll be asked to look at it in a particular poem and then make some links to the other texts. But remember that your main focus is the theme or the idea that you've been given and the poem in front of you. Okay, so this one, drinking my tea, is explore how Emily Dickinson presents ideas and feelings about the natural world in A Narrow Fellow in the Grass and make connections with one or two other poems from your collection. You should consider Dickinson's use of poetic and stylistic techniques and significant literary or other relevant contexts. And we remember from my feedback last time that focusing too much on biographical context is going to be a problem. So primarily we're focusing on the text in front of you. Then I attached this last time, but it's in the PowerPoint again. The mark scheme and the assessment objectives and what the exam board are looking for. So AO2, that's your analysis of methods, and everything you say has to be driven by the methods in the poem. And last time I was talking a bit about the difficulty between identifying techniques and talking about effects. So we're going to think in a bit more detail here about those. Use vocabulary and terminology effectively, referring to a wide range of literary and linguistic concepts. Express ideas fluently and coherently with a wide vocabulary. That's about the accuracy of your writing. Make telling use. Now, that word telling basically means that you use references to context in a way that illuminates or furthers your own interpretation, rather than just trying to stick in, oh, here's a historical fact about Emily Dickinson. She maybe fancied her sister-in-law. Okay, try and stay away from adding random bits of information. And then make interesting and illuminating use of points of connection between the poems, selecting significant stylistic and poetic features as part of a coherent analysis. And then in the mark scheme, as I showed you last time, you've got all of these little headings. So I'm going to go through all of these headings with the poem to my left and think about it. So step number 1 is to read the poem, surely. And I'm going to give you an idea for introductions here. So go through the poem, we're thinking about the natural world. So immediately, a narrow fellow in the grass occasionally rides. You may have met him, did you not? His notice sudden is. So we've read this poem, we know it's about a snake, but at no point in the poem does she say, this is a snake. So you've got that kind of personification this of fellow, okay? It's called anthropomorphism, when we make an animal into a human. And that word fellow, as we discussed, you remember, has quite upper class connotations. It reminds us a little bit of Because I Could Not Stop for Death. It's the same kind of characterization. Just here in my notes. Oh, that would help if I could spell this morning. Characterization of the fellow is similar to death in quite genteel, okay, like gentlemanly. The grass divides as with a comb, a spotted shaft is seen, and then it closes at your feet and opens further on. He likes a boggy acre, a floor too cool for corn. Yet when a boy and barefoot, I more than once at noon have passed, I thought, a whiplash unbraiding in the sun. When stooping to secure it, it wrinkled and was gone. Several of nature's people I know, and they know me. I feel for them a transport of cordiality, but never met this fellow attended or alone, without a tighter breathing and zero at the bone. Okay. So one of the core issues with this poem, or one of the core features of the poem, is that there is no direct identification of the subject. And in this way, we could make links to the other riddle poems, like I like to see it back the miles, or my life stood. Or even, it was not death. So what I would do in an introduction is I would give a brief overview of the subject, the story of the poem. So here we've got a male speaker, retrospective, discussing his memories and experiences with the narrow. And then I might add some stuff about links. I might say in Dickinson's characteristically allusive. Remember, allusive means to allude to something rather than elude, which means to escape from. In Dickinson's characteristically allusive style, she avoids directly identifying subject in a way that is similar to and then remember when we looked at those poems that were more about riddles, we kind of talked about this idea that it makes the experience more important than the subject itself. Does that make sense? So it's like this idea that your reaction to whatever it is more important than simply identifying it. Okay, so voice and tone. Well, we can identify it. First person. It's got direct address. So both of those things help to create quite a close relationship between reader and persona, and it almost feels like confidential, as in it's confiding in you. You may have met him. Did you not? His notice sudden is, haven't you seen this guy before? It becomes quite casual. And then as the poem progresses, you get this middle section, which is both a combination of factual observance he likes a boggy acre, a floor too cool for corn, and emotional memory. So he says, when I was a boy, I more than once passed a snake, and therefore I never met this fellow, attended or alone, without a tighter breathing and zero at the bone. You know, I get on with nature fine, but this particular snake, this one in particular, or snakes in general, make me feel quite uncomfortable. So, can I add other things to that? Absolutely. This is just to give you a brief overview. Form, structure, and graphology. Right. Well, we've got 5 stanzas, but the middle one is worth examining. Why? Because it focuses on the boy's past experience. Still drinking my tea. Conflict between nature and mankind. You know, this is the bit where it really focuses on man-made structures and the floor, and the boy and his presence, and then that idea of kind of intrusion into nature, and the fact that the snake, you know, when stooping to secure it, it wrinkled and was gone. This is mankind trying to interfere with nature, particularly in that word secure, okay? And nature escaping those restraints. You could also say that the longer middle stanza is reflective, you know, this idea that it's longer and it's trying to get a grip, is reflective of mankind's attempts to control nature and nature's ability to escape. Rhyme as well. So we've got the characteristic hymn meter, a narrow fellow in the grass, 8, occasionally rides 6. Okay, the 8-6. But look at where it is broken, okay? Why break that there? Well, again, it's that middle section, isn't it? There's a core change in, or a change or a shift in the feelings in the poem. In terms of rhyme, you've got slant rhyme in the opening 2 stanzas, but then by the time you get to stanza 3, and then stanza 4, and then into stanza 5, you've got full rhyme, perhaps suggesting a better full rhyme as poem develops, sorry. Perhaps understanding between speaker and nature. You know, that they seem more in tune with each other, even though he's saying, you know, I'll give it a wide berth, I'll avoid it. The rhyme, as it develops, I know and they know me, I feel for them a transport of cordiality. I never met this fellow, attended or alone, without a tighter breathing and zero at the bone. There is that kind of sense of coherence or bond between man and nature. And then also you've got her kind of use of dashes to create pauses and highlight particular images. And I want you to have a look at which images those are. Okay? Right. Imagery and symbolism. Now, this should be nice and easy for you. So, the image of the snake. We've got both the biblical relevance and man's natural fear of snakes. But he's being described as something quite gentlemanly. Use of fellow, capitalised, remember, in both opening and closing stanzas. The use of occasionally rides. You know, this isn't something that a snake does, so why use that vocabulary? Why say, oh, he's gone for a ride? Well, no, he hasn't. Then in stanza 2, the grass divides as with a comb. So you've got grass versus comb, the interplay between nature and mankind. And then it closes at your feet and it opens further on. That idea of the ease with which the snake moves. He likes a boggy acre, a floor too cool for corn. Yet when a boy and barefoot, and more than once at noon, have passed, I thought a whiplash unbraiding in the sun. When stooping to secure it, it wrinkled and was gone. So here, again, you've got that contrast between nature and mankind. Whiplash, unbraiding, as in like a whip, like a horse whip, kind of unraveling, fraying in the sun. And he thinks, oh, who's left that there? He goes to pick it up, and actually it's a snake. So there's that surprise. Again, similar to this image of the grass and the comb, the nature and mankind interplaying. Then maybe that use of nature's people. Again, that's referring to animals, to things in nature. But we're using that word people as well to continue this exploration of the interplay between nature and mankind, and perhaps to suggest that they're not so different as people might want to think. You know, if they're nature's people, they're just as important. Same as the snake is this fellow. You know, he's not this horrible snake that everyone runs away from. He's not a horrible thing to be got rid of. He is an identity in his own right, and perhaps quite an upper class one. This is me, you know, you can take your own interpretation. Rhyme and rhythm, well, we've already talked about those full rhymes and slant rhymes. I would look at pace, you know, where does it speed up? Where does it slow down? I would say it becomes faster at the midpoint, perhaps suggesting an increasing affinity with nature. You know, once he stops trying to describe or to identify nature in terms of man-made things, then things get a bit easier, okay? Particularly, you know, I'm saying this happens at 9, have passed, I thought a whiplash, I'm braiding in the sun, when stooping to secure it, it wrinkled and gone. Several of nature's people I know, and they know me. I feel for them a transport of cordiality. You know, you can feel in terms of that hymn meter the way that it's getting faster. And then there's that pause at the end, isn't there? But never met this fellow attended or alone without a tighter breathing, and 0 at the bone. And that focus on that word bone at the end leaves us with this sense of kind of our own fragility. Okay, there's lots more that you can say there. I might get you to think about sounds. So remember, we looked a floor too cool for corn, assonance, an alliteration. There's quite a lot of that going on there. Why? we annotated this in your copy of the poem, so get your annotated copy out. That will help you. Okay, Lexis, you can probably link in with your image. Are there any particular words? Here, what you might find useful is to do our picking apart close linguistic analysis. Are there more verbs or nouns or adjectives? What might that suggest? Are there any links or lexical fields? Okay. Grammar and morphology. You wrote really nicely about shifting between passive and active voice or past and present tense. Here, you've got consistent shifts between past and present, perhaps suggesting this idea of nature's permanence. You know, it's not like, oh, this experience once happened to me as a child, but I haven't thought about it since. It's, you know, here is nature and it's always going to be like this. And then the final things that I would think about in the poem are kind of what context do you think is relevant? And I'm just going to put some notes into here, into my introduction slide. But you can kind of fit it in wherever you think it works. You know, this is not, you have to put it in the first bit. I would think a little bit about the kind of Victorian interest in exploration. I don't want the word naturism because that means being naturalism. That's the one. Don't write naturism. Naturism means walking around with no clothes on. Naturalism means exploring the natural world. So you've got all of these ideas, and it's interesting that she chooses the image of the snake because the snake obviously is so closely linked to images of Christianity, but this doesn't feel like a religious poem. It feels like a poem that explores nature in and of itself. You know, this isn't something that she's trying to say, oh, God created this, or God has done X, Y, and Z. And so by choosing the snake, she's kind of, or she seems to be kind of updating these ideas about nature. So you could bring in Darwin and social ideas about explaining the natural world. What I really don't want to see is any strange comments about, oh, she was a recluse and she stayed inside her entire life. The other thing I want you to notice, I want you to remember, is that this poem is written from a boy's perspective. Okay, it says, yet when a boy and barefoot, I more than once at noon have passed. So this is an entirely invented persona. Okay, the speaker is not Dickinson. Please make sure that you make that clarification. Okay, I'm going to upload this video onto our YouTube channel. I will send you the PowerPoint on Frog now. I want this essay in next week, please. So today is Wednesday, the 6th of May. I'm going to give you until next Thursday, okay? Lots and lots of time for writing, but I do need everybody's work in, and I need everybody's work to be perhaps slightly better than it was last time. If you need some more support, please, please, please email me, okay? Or drop me a message on Frog and I will sort that out for you. Okay, take care, guys, and get outside in the sunshine today. Find your own narrow fellow in the grass. No, I can't believe I just said that. All right, take care, year 12. Bye.